NCAA needs to be disbanded. They need to be totally overthrown. If I were to come back to the U now, not a level playing field. I'd unlevel the playing field.
Because we call it NIL, but what it is a collective, right? The collectives is what's paying these players.
And if I'd known when I was running around with the U before what the NCAA was, I would have stepped my game up even more. So if anyone out there is listening and you want some real studs, holler if you're at the coaching level. Why would the NCAA write a letter on my behalf to my sentencing judge?
And the kick is blocked. What is he looking at? What a hit. Ball's free. Eugeni's in the house. He's scooped up by the top zone. Marcus, you believe that? Unbelievable. They got blockers. Boise State. Auburn's going to win the football game. Sneaks is going to throw. Bryson. Touchdown.
Welcome to Beyond the Narrative Sports. My name is Andy Hernandez, alongside my co-host Nevin Shapiro. Today we're going to go a little different direction. Nevin and I have done a podcast now on college football for the last couple of months, but today we're going to address the NCAA situation, what's going on right now in the NIL, and his situation back then with the NCAA, which was the Miami scandal, as everyone knows. I'm going to preface this by saying that this is not going into the Miami scandal. We're going to, on the surface, we're going to touch it, but we're not really going into that. Today, what we're going to talk about is the NCAA and how did we get here to this point with the NIL, where this is basically the Wild Wild West and there's no guardrails and this has just gone off a cliff. And where is this going? So who better than Nevin Shapiro to discuss this and to give light to this situation?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andy. So, this has been, obviously everyone's familiar with, what took place with me in the NCAA situation some time ago. I'm very pro-UM, and we're not here to even really talk about that whatsoever. So if anything, it's only a point of reference to what conversations were taking place behind the scenes that nobody ever heard about, and how did we get here? How did we get to this just insane, martial law environment that we're in with college sports? First and foremost, these kids absolutely should be compensated. It's not. It should have been done a long time ago. And you and I were having a conversation this past weekend, and I showed you where the change and the shift took place in college football. And it started in that 1986 Fiesta Bowl with Miami and Penn State. It's the first time that they took a game off of the national slate where they used to do the Orange Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Cotton Bowl in one day. And that Miami-Penn State game was the first time that it was the only game. And so we can go back. That's 1980, I guess, January 1987.
Yeah, because all the games back then was January 1st. Everything would play.
Right.
So I guess they played that game January 2nd?
It was the 3rd, I think.
Or the 3rd?
Yeah, it was 2 days or 3 days later.
See, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And so that was the beginning of big business for the NCAA and the media dollars.
TV dollars.
Because that was the great Miami team, the Mystique Hurricanes with the fatigues. Penn State was they're the underdog. And so you had, everyone.
Paternal team.
You loved us or you hated us.
Right.
You weren't on the fence. But anyway, that was the beginning of big business dollars for college football. So we're going back now, 20, 35 years already? Whatever, 30 some odd years.
I was in 86 and I'm 41. I don't want to give away my age, but that was 38 years ago.
Yeah, so that's where it really started. And, then they got into the BCS era and all that stuff. And by then the contracts and the media contracts were just bananas. So these kids have been getting, maybe things were different, obviously, in the 70s and the early 80s, but we know it's become a massive business. And how could you just let kids be able to eat per diems per week and pay, like, and a lot of that situation with why I was looking out for a lot of the kids and this and that really never came to light. But like, these kids were choking, like they couldn't support anything, and themselves, or some of them had infant babies and whatnot. But anyway, these kids should have been getting paid a long time ago. The NCAA put their head in the sands. And, when we were talking about, like, what after college football ends, the season ends, and it's been incredible, right? The 12-team playoff has
the
been
best season I've ever witnessed.
I mean, even though everything's going off the guardrails money-wise and tampering and all this and this and that, it's still been the most unbelievable season ever.
Yep.
Right? So I just think it's time to really address this. I don't know if it's an elephant in the room or if it's just what it is. The NCAA is just some bullshit. And it's time to really...
Who is the NCAA? Like, we say the NCAA, but who are they? Like, who's making all this money?
It's like the wizard. It's like the Grand Wizard. You pull back the curtain and there's like a 90-year-old guy laying there and he's all crumbled up. But you're thinking like, man, it's the Grand Wizard. Like, that's who the NCAA is. Mm-hmm. Who are they? I don't know. I could tell you my situation, and really that's why I wanted to have this sit down. And I just think it's important for the people that hate me, don't listen. But you're just being ignorant to the facts of what it really is. So anyway, as far as the people who don't care for me and, it's ignorance to at least not listen to what I have to say, because I sat in the lion's den with these people.
Right.
And for those who do appreciate my candor, this is coming from the source. Like, I watched. So there was a lot more outside of like what was going on with the whole Miami thing. A lot of it had to do with compensation for college athletes, period. And when I got in depth with some of my thoughts, it was earth-shattering to the NCAA listening to me. And the truth of the matter is, I could have run around on them for 20 years. If I didn't get locked up, I'd probably still be going. Except legally now.
Right.
NIL-wise. I would have just been setting up this and that. And, and that's why when I speak about what I say, as far as like if I were to come back to the U now, it's not a level playing field. I'd unlevel the playing field. I would unlevel it.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Miami would be the most dominant program in America, and I just know it for 100% fact, because I just know what it would take to put them there. I'm not going to share that recipe or secret sauce for you and Mike Norvell. But I know exactly what I would do. This is WWE entertainment. The president of the NCAA might as well be Vince McMahon at this point in time. That's what we've become. But I really want to shine the light on the NCAA and how we've gotten here. That's the whole purpose of this sit down.
So take us back through your situation, not what happened with the University of Miami, but with the NCAA, when you're having these communications and you're going back and forth. Walk us through that.
Yeah. So there are, and don't quote me on the exact number, but there were 30-plus employees of the NCAA, investigators, who were asked to sign hold harmless agreements, non-disclosures, because they were being fired or let go, and part of their severance, if they didn't sign it, they weren't getting their severance, right? And they actually wrote a letter to my sentencing judge, which you've seen.
Right.
We just posted. It's real. It's their letterhead. I didn't cut and paste or photo op it. That they wanted me to consult on their behalf because I had the idea. I didn't have the exact formula. There's guys way smarter than me who would figure that out. But the one thing they knew is, like, it's time to start paying these kids. And 30-some-odd people were let go. And the NCAA put their head in the sand. And you've seen my paperwork.
What was the reason why they let go of those 30 plus?
Because they knew everything that I had said was spot on.
Spot on.
And it wouldn't have given a good look to the NCAA. But there were more guys than me out there. I just happened to be in the hottest city in the country. So it's a more glorified situation. But I said, listen, Armageddon's coming to you guys. Like, get ahead of it. And they could have really, they being the NCAA, could have really pacified the natives by simply showing that they gave a shit. And they could have shown that they really did believe these kids should be compensated. To this day, they still don't acknowledge that kids should be compensated.
Right.
Right?
So what opened all this up, in your opinion, was it your case or the Ed O'Bannon antitrust lawsuit against the NCAA? Because to this day, the NCAA does not pay these kids.
Yeah.
But it did open up where they can start getting money on their name, image, and likeness.
Yeah. So let me go into that, because there's been a lot of dialogue that I've read, commentary wise. Oh, Shapiro wasn't the guy; it was the Ed O'Bannon thing. No, it was both. My thing was behind the scenes because they knew what they had to do. The Ed O'Bannon thing brought it to light in the sense of, like, now he went to federal court. And I don't think he was victorious. I think he was victorious on the antitrust part of it, but not individually. He joined the class action. He became part of a class action. They consolidated it to one lawsuit. Mm-hmm. And that was, I believe, 2015, if I'm not mistaken. So, in fact, that's what really got the light shining to what inevitably led to, I believe, a 2021 NIL situation. Maybe it was 22, but I know it started on July 1st.
It started 21.
July 1st, right? And so Ed O'Bannon's situation certainly brought it to the forefront.
Right.
Because now the courts. So to this day, to your point, the NCAA still hasn't done shit.
Right.
They're still fighting. Given extra years of eligibility, this and that. I mean, like...
Yeah, now they got a salary, or they're going to have a cap. The schools are going to have $21 million or $22 million cap. But that's coming from the school's revenue, but that's not the NCAA.
And let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
They didn't do it because they thought it was the right thing to do.
Sure.
They were forced to do it.
They were forced to do it, yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And so they need to be disbanded. They need the NCAA needs to be disbanded. They need to be totally overthrown. Like, do they even matter? The truth of the matter is they don't. There needs to be. I'm not the guy that's going to come up with the policy. There's been a lot of commentary, as you know, with me saying I'd love to run the union for the kids, or at least have 3 massive law firms nationally. Let me be the face of it, because really these kids should be getting half.
Right.
Why shouldn't they? You know what I mean? And just with the NCAA, they put their head in the sands in this thing, and I have to expose them. I have to, and I've got the paperwork. I've shown it to you. You've read it.
Yeah, I have.
I mean, you've seen it.
Yeah, it's flooring what you see in there in the communications.
I mean, email exchanges between the NCAA and myself, and I'm like, what? Like, you're just gonna? And so, like, a lot of why I got angry when the whole situation with the situation between me and the U took place, it wasn't so much about Miami as much as it was about the NCAA just being complacent and just, we're not paying kids. That's why they let those, because those people, those 30 some odd people that I mentioned, knew that it was time. I told them, you have to do this. It's too easy to beat you guys and circumvent you.
Right.
Like, I had compliance on lockdown. So how are you beating me?
Right.
If there's not a compliance director to keep me in check.
Keep you in check, yeah.
I had him in check. You know what I'm saying? So you need a governing body that's like really represents both the players and the NCAA.
So do you think it, from the NCAA's perspective, is it incompetence? Is it greed? Is it we're just going to sweep it under the rug? It's never going to hit our doorstep. But like, why didn't they want to pay players?
You'd have to ask Mark Emmert because he was the guy it was his watch through all this time. I can't answer it. Complacent, I'm giving them that. Greedy, they're going to eat that one too. It's a combination of many variables. And they have got to be brought to the forefront and exposed. I'm not saying it needs to be government regulated, but now you could see they're reaching out to the government to regulate them. Do you think the government's going to do it for free?
Of course not.
That's money that's going to come out of the kids' pockets.
Correct.
And the bottom line.
Correct.
Right? So why not just let's have an arbitration, a mediation, whatever the word you want to use, and let's have someone that represents both interests because there's enough money
To go around.
go around.
Yep.
And that's it. And that's where it's always been. And I've always wondered why, like, the ESPNs of the world, you know, the Paul Feinbaums, the people with the college football followings haven't reached out. Why? Because of what my criminal case was? That has nothing to do with what this situation is. This situation is very unique in its own, you know, being.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the Lions Den, and I saw the incompetence of these people firsthand. Mind-boggling to me. Mind-boggling. And if I'd known when I was running around with the U what the NCAA was, I would have stepped my game up even more. I mean, they're pansies. Man, they're straight pansies. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. We have 6 guys in this room right now. Let's add 2, and that's the new NCAA.
Right.
That's how easy it would be. And it's just, you know, it cannot. There's no way this system can sustain itself. It's professional sports.
So if the federal government doesn't step in, NCAA doesn't put guardrails, where do you see this in 2 or 3 years, 4 years? Because what's happening now, and these kids sitting out in the bowl games, transferring in the middle of the season, I mean, it's wild.
Listen, Andy, you firsthand look at my social media, right? You see things that others don't. How many people reach out to me?
Daily? 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5, 6.
Individually, right? Over the course of time. So add them
yeah,
up.
it
You
keeps
got
compounding,
hundreds
yeah.
of people, right?
Yeah.
They don't have the answers. They're little.
Yeah, they're looking at you.
They're looking at me to give them answers.
Yeah.
Who am I?
Yeah.
You know, and
What's funny is, and I'm going to share this story. I'm in Spain, and you tell me, call me, FaceTime me. And I'm not going to give the coach out, but it's a friend that I've known for 20 plus years. He's coaching now, Division I program, and you put him on the phone, and you know we say hello, whatever, and then you tell me after, like he's asking me for the answers to the test because he doesn't know.
yeah.
Like he's asking you for advice on how to handle this NIL situation.
You know, and I laugh at the people. This guy don't know shit. This guy don't know shit. Man, I'm the fucking pioneer of this bitch. You understand, man?
Yeah, they
Like
call you the Godfather of the
I
NIL.
mean, like, you know, someone was doing it before me. We know. We just had a thing. But you know, that was on a different scale.
Right.
And now we're, you know, and shout out to him.
Right.
We're not starting
No.
we ain't starting no
Absolutely.
bullshit, right? But like, man, I saw this coming.
Right.
I saw this coming. I was just ahead of the curve. And someone was going to have to look out for these kids. Well, now, but here's the problem. You asked the question. I want to give you a solid answer to this. Because as much as I seem like a non-purist, I am a purist in the game. And I'm old school in that regard. I love college football, as we both know, watching each other's antics and whatever and passion for it. I don't think this can sustain itself because what you got are runners to the runners, to the runners to the runners. And everyone's got their hand in the bag. And what you're doing is you're really hurting these kids inevitably, because these kids are jumping into the portal like it's like taking a shower. But then they're leaving a home with food and clothing.
Did you see the quarterback at Oregon? He jumped from, I forgot the West Coast school, but he went to Oregon. He was there for a week, and then now he's back in the portal. Did you see that? Lazo, give me this guy's name. Did you see that?
No, I read something just recently. I can't keep up with it.
I can't keep up with it either. It's just it's out,
Like,
of,
honestly,
out of control.
Listen to me. Here's the thing. So you got kids that got room and board and they're comfortable. And now they go and say, there's got to be a better dream. The grass is greener.
Greener, exactly.
And so now they jump, but they don't have a landing spot. So they left room and board
And they're in the iCloud or
to be homeless. And I'm not going to say it. You know the guy. You know who I'm talking about. I'm sitting right now with 2 or 3 players that I cannot believe don't have a home right now. So if anyone out there is listening and you want some real studs, holler if you're at the coaching level.
right.
No money involved.
Yeah.
They just need a home. And it's crazy that you read it. You know what it is.
Yeah, I know.
And like, I just cannot believe that these guys don't have a home. And they were studs in high school. If they were coming out of high school now, who knows? I mean, you know.
Yeah, and I asked you this question. I go, why don't they have a home? Well, they don't got any tape.
It's
So I'm like,
man,
what?
I've seen this game, and I just couldn't take anymore. And that's why I said to you, I say to you, Andy, look, we got to do this thing on the NCAA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you don't want to watch, don't watch. But, man, this is what it is. And there's nobody. You're not going to see Kirk Herbstreit or Reese
Anybody
Davis or
going to
Chris
this step.
Fowler who could talk to you the way I'm talking to
They
you.
can't. Listen, they're tied. Their hands are tied.
You know what I mean?
They really can't.
Right. You know,
And then no fault to them, because if we were in that position,
Right, listen.
I don't know if we talk, right?
Right. Yeah, I got it. You know what I mean? But like, unfortunately, for the NCAA, I have no ties.
Right.
I'm recently pardoned and fresh. And they get the double deuces. I'll keep them to myself.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that kid. Yeah, with the complicated. Where did he start off at? USC, and then he went from USC, I think, to
Jaron Sagalpalut, something like that. Yeah, California Golden Bears in the early national signing period. Now talented quarterback from Hawaii has reported entered transfer portal, flipped to the Oregon Ducks from California Golden Bears.
But back to Cal now. Yeah,
Damn.
there you go.
That's crazy.
I mean,
the kid showed up to campus for 1 week, didn't like what he saw. It's like, you know what? I'm going to the portal.
yeah, he did a hit and run. It was a drive-by.
It is ruining. And here's what I tell you. You know, we've talked about this is the best college football season ever. It's because we're junkies, right?
Yeah.
But if the fan base of like Florida State,
Not good for the brand.
it's not good for the brand. Like, I don't know one player. Like, you know, they've signed a bunch of kids from Tennessee, from Memphis. I don't know who any of these kids are.
You know, look, it's like, okay, so if you're a fan, like, all right, so I'm a Miami fan. So going back when, so like when you got a guy like, let's say John Vilma coming in behind Dan Morgan, and you're like excited to see how this kid's going to play. Who's the next guy up?
Right.
You can't wait. You don't even get a chance to see that because you're out of here, right? You're gone before you show up.
It's funny you say that. Like Luke Kromenhoek, which was a 5-star
Yeah.
going at Florida State, and I had a lot of hope for this kid because I think he can play. And I'm like, okay, they're gonna give the reins over to him. They said, screw it, we got to win right now. We're going to the portal. We're gonna go get Castellanos. We're gonna go get all these kids because the pressure's on them, especially coming after the season. So forget that kid. Now that kid may never get developed. He's going to
And
Mississippi State.
That's a crucial point you just made,
Yeah.
Andy. Okay, now, we speak with a number of former NFL guys, right?
Yeah.
And what's the one word that keeps coming up? Development.
Development.
Right? That's the one word that keeps coming up. So what they're doing is, they being the NCAA, is they're diluting the product. And the ones who really should be upset and be getting concerned is the NFL.
Sure.
Because you're getting what the NBA ended up inheriting, which are kids.
Such a great point.
Which are kids.
Such a great point.
That are not ready to play in the NBA.
Yep.
And that's what's happening here.
Yep.
That's what's happening here.
Yep.
And,
And here's some advice to the parents, and I'm going to give you some advice. Stop trying to go for the quick hit. If you got a kid that's a 4-star, 5-star that he has a future in the NFL, stop going for the quick hit, because you're jeopardizing his longevity in the game if you put him in the wrong situation and they don't get developed.
I'm watching it every day, Andy. I'm learning this NIL game, not the money, but what is behind the curtain. I'm learning so much about it just from the DMs that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Like, it's really astonishing to me. When I got coaches calling me and asking me to get involved with their program, I'm a convicted felon, recently given a reprieve until proven otherwise, which we know. Part of arguably the biggest, or one of the biggest scandals of all time. But the coaches are reaching out to me.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
Yeah.
Maybe I knew something. And I'm not braggadocious about it. It's just this system cannot sustain itself. It can't. There's no way. And it's just not. It's exciting. We're the college football fan.
Right. Well, a lot of these kids are coming from the inner city, and I'll tell you, the one thing that I have noticed is that you have the respect of the inner city. You have it, because they're reaching out to you. I see it every single day. They respect what you've done and what you say, and they trust it. And they'll trust you before some suit comes in trying to sell them the dream.
Yeah. Well, they went through it. A lot of guys from that walk of life, experienced it firsthand. My generosity and my compassion and good heart, and I'm not, I just let the NCAA do the right thing, man.
Yeah.
And why don't you step aside? Step aside. Like, because you're full of shit. And you've always been full of, you're full of shit. You've always been full of shit. And you're not looking out for the kids' best interest. You're just not. So who's doing that? Who's at the table for the kids right now? Can you tell me? Who's there for the kids right now?
Yeah.
Look. All right, no one's going to say, all right, Nevin Shapiro's going to run the union. Okay. We'll get 3 of the biggest law firms in America. Okay. My part of getting taken care of and compensated will come from the legal side of things, from the legal end, from the law firm side of things. I'm not going to take a dollar from the kids. But why are they not 50-50? It's a partnership now. What happens if these kids don't show? What happens for the 12-team playoff if they got a union manager and they're not getting theirs? Now all of a sudden, no one shows up to play the games.
Be a nightmare scenario.
Well, it sounds like the NCAA's got a problem.
Yeah, huge problem
with the media, because I'm quite sure a 30-second ad is $1 zillion.
Yeah.
Right? Who's speaking on behalf of the kids? To this day, nobody. What, that 2-point-something billion settlement? Drop that in aisle 2. Big deal. Who cares? They're making $1 jillion. It's not even a number. And I hate where the game has gone in that regard. Kids 100% need to be paid. Don't take my words or vibe for anything other than.
But it can't be this.
No, this is not a sustainable.
No.
This is not a listen, you're a CEO in your own business world and field. Could you sustain
No.
as a CEO?
No.
The head of a company? No way. It's crazy. If I wanted to go start some shit right now, I'd fuck up some college team out there in a minute.
Kind of reminds me, and I don't know if the equivalent, but the analogy of the 2008 bubble, the real estate.
Well, I could talk to you about that specifically.
I mean, you had teachers owning $1 million homes. And
Yeah,
you
don't
had,
worry about it. I was 6'2" when I went to prison. Shit stressed me down,
It
man.
did, but it not. You know, it's a bubble right now.
Right.
It's gonna pop.
Right.
Then
No, yeah. It's not good for the game
No.
long term.
No.
You know what I mean? Like the college sports in general, but as we're talking about college football, needs a reset. It needs a reset. These aren't stupid rules. Like the kid from Miami, not to use Miami as the example, the guy just played 9 years. No disrespect to him. Yeah, no disrespect to him, but like if you got a rule for one, it should be a rule for all. Like it's at the transfer portal. How many times can you transfer?
I think he applied for a pension, didn't he?
Yeah. Don't steal my stuff.
I only heard it 100 times. I might as well use it.
So, but it's not a sustainable situation, and I hate it, and I don't like where it's going, and I don't think they know where it's going. The NCAA, which is even more scary, right? It's not even the inmates running the asylum. No one's running the asylum. And it's a really bad time. And, you know, I brought some paperwork, and I'm not going to get into it. I don't think I thought about maybe showing you some things and this and that, but you've seen it anyway. But like, am I sitting here with a journal about what the NCAA should have done, my recommendations, and they turned a blind eye. And because they turned a blind eye, this is where we are today. This is where we are.
Can you elaborate the conversations that you had with Mark Hebron, which was I guess he was the president of the NCAA at that time?
Yeah, I can. So, well, first of all, I never spoke to Mark Emmert directly. Okay. I had email exchanges with the enforcement staff and everyone high up the chain. Mark Emmert put out when he saw where this was going, he put out, as you see, a internal memo, which I was able to get my hands on. And he was doing everything in his power to just
sweep it under the rug
and discredit me. When in fact, not one thing I said had been not corroborated.
Right.
They knew I had it. Why would the NCAA write a letter on my behalf to my sentencing judge? Mark Emmert came out after and said, we in no way, shape, or form were ever planning to do that. Yes, you were. That's why you fired those people.
Right. Right. And give them non-disclosure agreements.
Because someone had the answers to the test you didn't want answered. And I got my documentation. And then they wrote up their form. I'm holding what people have never seen. You've seen it.
Yep.
Am I lying?
Nope.
So,
show them the stack. Give me the stack. They're not going to be able to. Yeah, it's all right here. Emails, communications from the NCAA.
Yeah, you could show the cover letter. Just show the cover letter.
Yeah. Report on NCAA's engagement of a source counsel and use of the bankruptcy process in its University of Miami investigation. It's all in here.
You know what I mean? And no one's seen that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest firms in America. And, you know, it just is what it is.
Right.
And there was a much bigger play here, and that was compensation for student athletes. And they just said, we don't want to know about it. And that's where we are in the NIL world today. So anyone out there who feels whatever they may feel, you're talking to the one who sat in with the devil. Me not being the devil. The NCAA is the devil. And they still, to this day, don't want to pay these kids. They don't. They were forced to. Whatever, court forced them to.
Right.
They didn't want to. They still don't want to. And so I don't know where it's going from here. I don't know. I'm not Nostradamus. I don't know. I just know it's got a bad look.
Yeah, it definitely does. Just it's ruining, like you said, it's ruining the kids. It's ruining the sport.
Andy, a lot of times, and I read, oh, this guy's arrogant, he's cocky, he's this and that. I'm just confident in what I know. That's what I can tell you. And I can tell you, like, if I ever got back involved with the University of Miami, if that were to ever happen, highly unlikely, but if that were to ever happen, I would turn that program in. They'd have to form an anti-monopoly trust lawsuit against them. That's how hard I'd run that shit. Because the guardrails are off.
Yeah, there's no guardrails.
Who's stopping me? And I still love them. Who's stopping me? I can tell you who's not stopping me. Phil Knight at Oregon. I run right through him like he's not even here. With all his money.
That's big boy money.
I got Miami. He's got the mountains. You know what I mean? And I know what it, I mean. They've opened the playing field to everybody, and if you got that corporate money behind you or international money behind you.
So Dion made a good point, and I was watching this on one of his clips because we call it NIL, but what it is a collective, right? The collectives is what's paying these players. Only a few players have NIL deals, right? Like a Shador, a Travis Hunter, a Cam Ward that signed with Adidas.
Mm-hmm.
It's the collectives that are paying these kids.
Yeah. The application of funds.
Yeah, it's not
was screwed up from the door because the NCAA never had a handle on it.
correct.
And so that's why you find yourselves with backdoor runners and all this other shenanigan shit going on. That's what it is, and that's what it's going to be. And if you're doing that for your program, God bless you. Keep doing it.
Keep doing it, yeah.
Right? But as far as like the way that it should have been put into play, the NCAA dropped the ball, and they're never recovering it. They're never recovering it. I never see a time when they get it right.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here having this conversation. I don't care if we go national. I hope we do, because let me stand up in front of Congress. I'm happy to do so. I'm happy to do so and expose these people. Like, yeah, this is what it is. Okay. Take your walk of shame down the aisle. No one will show up against me from the NCAA. Nobody will. I know they wouldn't. Why would they? They're not going to look good, and they're not going to win. They know what they did. And, you know, it's all about greed. So to answer your earlier question, incompetence, that's par for the course with those people. But greed, that runs the show.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting to see what's going to happen going forward, because I don't think, obviously, they don't have the answer, and this is it's gonna turn really bad.
It's turned really bad, and it's gonna reach a point of like no turning back. What do? Stop playing football? Stop it. Something has to be done. Someone has to intervene. Has to.
Yeah, it's going to be the federal government.
I don't see how else do you police this thing?
Yeah, they're going to have to step in.
I just don't see how else you police it, because these people can't police themselves.
Right.
And if I come off harsh about them, it's because that's how I really feel about them. I've seen the clown show live in color. It's real. And, you know, that's where I stand on the NCAA. And if you're a college sports fan, expect the unexpected.
It's going to continue.
Expect the unexpected.
It's going to continue in basketball.
What's going to happen now with this kid, Jalen Rashada? He sued Florida for not paying him the NIL money. Now you see what just happened with Florida State. I know
Leonard Hamilton. Yeah.
with Leonard Hamilton. And like, where does it end?
Yep.
It's not going to end.
Well, the kid at UNLV.
Oh,
owed $100,000.
that started it. Yeah,
That started the whole thing.
Yeah,
The quarterback.
That's sort of, yeah. You know, and you got false promises, and you know, and I'm privy.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
I'm privy to some of these NIL deals. Like, I've seen it, and the money. I just can't believe it. I cannot believe it. But I guess I could believe anything after what I've been through. But like it's still astonishing to me. The money, the numbers, not even for like great players. And it's creating false markets and bubble markets that don't exist.
Yeah.
And that's where we are, and it's just getting worse and worse. And what's happening is it's going to that example I gave you with the NBA, the NFL should be seriously concerned. They're getting a lot of diluted product and underdeveloped kids coming into their brand.
Yeah, it's changing the philosophy for these programs on how to coach and
Yeah.
how to really grow a program.
You can't.
And that's why you see a Nick Saban that he got out. It's like, I'm done. A Larinaga left.
And you're talking about legends.
Yeah.
Legends
Yep.
in their field. Larinaga he's a legendary coach, in my opinion.
Agreed.
And Saban, that goes without saying, And so, like, when they say enough's enough, and then I hear some of the, sports reporters say, well, it was okay when you were making the money, but the players weren't. Now it's not listen, there's so many evils in play here that it's just, who knows what could happen.
The thing is that it progressed into this, right? But it started amateur, right? College football, college athletics is amateur sports. It's
Yeah.
not professional. The problem is that the TV rights went through the roof, started making billions and billions of dollars, and these kids are starving to put, take their next meal.
Let's not really lose sight of what's coming.
Yep.
High school
Oh,
is next.
it's here. They passed it in the
It's
state
here.
of Florida.
I mean, listen, you're going to have like Miami Northwestern, let's just use them as an example, high school football, right? So they've always been a very dominant local program. And I'm just using them as an example only. It's like you're going to have like a Miami Northwestern that'll never give up the title because
They got a backer.
their NIL backer is
Yeah.
me
Right.
or whoever.
Whatever, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And wants to get the kid from the inception when they start playing to keep him
well,
all
and
the
then
way
it's going to
pro.
drop down to Pop Warner.
Well, it already has.
Well, you already know. We had the conversation with
It
Lou.
already has, yeah.
We had the conversation
And
with
then
Lou.
my best friend coaches 8U, and he was telling me that they gave, I'm not going to say the team, but they gave one of the quarterbacks $10,000 to go play. He was 9 years old.
I'm watching.
Facts.
Listen, I'm watching.
These guys in the background are losing. They can't believe it.
I'm
Straight
watching
facts.
Devin Hester's son on YouTube or Instagram, and I'm saying to myself, this kid's worth six figures. He's 8. He's worth six figures. He's 8 years old or whatever he is. I'm watching him. I'm like, this kid's like a reflection of his dad
Right.
at 8.
Right.
Like, what's his value?
Right.
What's his NIL value? What's his Pop Warner value?
Yep.
Like, do I need to start putting out Pop Warner evaluations?
Mm-hmm.
That's where we are. And so
It's wild, man. It's just
Yeah.
wild where all this is going. But in closing, is there anything else you want to add to this conversation?
no, not really. I just none of this has to do with the University of Miami. Just to be clear,
Yeah.
this is a much bigger picture here. This is about the NCAA and their lack of ability to enforce this current day of collegiate sports,
Right.
which is no longer collegiate.
Mm-hmm.
It's the minor leagues of the NFL
Right.
and the NBA.
All right. We'll see where we end up, and hopefully you get a phone call and they want to make you union boss.
Listen, I just hope I don't end up like Jimmy Hoffa. But other than that, I'm happy to listen.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks. All right, Andy.
Going for the corner.